Moira, a violinist at Lindbergh Academy, performs Tartini's Devil's Trill in a practice chamber. Inside, we see etchings of enigmatic symbols on the wall. Her music is interrupted by a grandfather clock that rings. Then the sky turns yellow, hypnotizing her, making her climb through the balcony, and she jumps off, committing the unthinkable. Next, we see Juliet and Vivian, fraternal twin sisters, grow up. They have a love for classical piano at an early age. Juliet is annoyed by her inability to concentrate while practicing. Vivian then interrupts her, searching for her music sheet but fails to locate it. Juliet walks downstairs since she can't concentrate on playing the piano. The twins' parents are enjoying a modest gathering with their friends at home. One of her parents' acquaintances congratulates Juliet on her entrance to Juilliard. Turns out he's referring to Vivian, who got admitted into Juilliard. Next, their parents drives them to a musical boarding school, and Vivian goes to meet her lover, Max. Despite not being accepted to Juilliard, Juliet's father gives her encouragement and teaches her that life is about more than just being the center of attention. Gordon, the principal, declares at an assembly held in honor of the deceased lady, saying the music showcase would continue in her honor. To Vivian's joy, they have decided to organize tryouts for the concerto, since Moira, their soloist, is no longer with them. The sisters spend time with Max and Alexis, their other buddy, who spreads rumors about Moira, or Mad Moira as he refers to her. He describes the unusual symbols she etched on the walls of the room she was in before falling from the third story, describing how she used to be really eccentric. He adds that Moira had ambidexterity. Juliet, on the other hand, believes she is an exceptional student and finds it strange that the competition is still going on in spite of her passing. While grabbing something from their cubby, the two sisters converse, and Vivian confronts Juliet about her composition, suggesting that she change tunes if she so chooses. However, Juliet claims that Roger, her designated teacher, will not allow her to make last-minute changes. Nevertheless, Vivian advises her to have the guts to pursue her interests. Then, as they are conversing, Juliet witnesses Vivian turn down a call from an unidentified number. As Vivian departs, Juliet picks up a book on the floor, belonging to the late Moira. So she decides to keep it. During her practice session with Roger, Juliet suggests switching from Mozart to Saint-Saëns 2, the same piece Vivian will be performing, as her concerto audition piece. Roger, however, advises her to continue with her existing work and doesn't support her choice. When she leaves, she sees Vivian in another room and watches in envy as she's being tutored by Dr. Kask, the best teacher in their school. Then, once they finish, Juliet quickly jots down her piece for the concerto and submits it to Dr. Kask. In the practice room, Juliet tirelessly tries to perfect Saint-Saëns until late at night. Then, when she leaves, she suddenly hears the Devil's Trill being played inside one of the rooms. Intrigued, she follows the sound, but the music stops when she finds herself inside the same room where Moira killed herself, seeing a symbol of the sun carved on the wall behind a curtain, the same symbol on Moira's notebook. She reads a little poem about a Faustian pact on the notebook's opening page. She sits down at the piano and plays it from the notebook. Then, to her amazement, Dr. Kask informs her that the piece is Tartini's Devil's Trill, then leaves. Juliet keeps looking through the notebook, finding many sketches that show the steps she needs to follow to realize her goal. However, the page with the last step is torn off. The next day, Vivian knocks loudly on Juliet's door, informing her that they will be late for the audition. When Juliet gets her period, Vivian teases her about it, but after noticing how distressed she is, she consoles her. Juliet is about to have a panic attack while they're waiting for their turn in the auditorium. She hurries to the toilet to take her anxiety medicine, but just before she takes the pill, she notices Moira's journal, which forces her to swallow 3 pills at once. Juliet returns and watches the last portion of Vivian's performance, which everyone is amazed by it. When she takes her time on stage, Roger and Vivian are taken aback after hearing her perform Saint-Saëns, same piece as Vivian's. Juliet enters a dreamscape as she begins to play, where she finds herself on stage and receiving applause from the crowd as she completes her performance, and the dream version of herself smirks right at her. She wakes up when she hears Gordon's voice. She asks Gordon how she fared, and the principal gives her a kind remark. It turns out that she passed out after playing her piece. When Juliet gets back to the classroom, she opens Moira's notepad by mistake rather than her own. The first path's illustration catches her eye. It shows a lady holding 3 circles in her hands, which symbolizes the 3 pills she swallowed. A few seconds later, Juliet begins to see colors filling the circles, but changes back to normal. Wilkins checks on her before she leaves the classroom, stating that she seemed to have progressed, and encourages her to keep up the good work. Juliet confronts Vivian after class to make amends for taking her artwork. However, Vivian is too upset with Juliet, accusing her of embarrassment for displaying her jealousy. The concerto posting is subsequently seen by Juliet, who is dismayed to learn that Vivian received the showcase solo. Because of this, Juliet becomes quite resentful of her sister. When Juliet switches pieces during practice, Roger confronts her about it and assures her that he was acting in her best interests when he advised her to continue with Mozart. Roger, however, goes on to warn her that her desire to become a concertmaster is unduly ambitious and that she would be better off becoming a music teacher. Juliet immediately responds to Roger by informing him that she has given up everything in her life to play the piano and that she would not accept anything less. In addition, Juliet is quite angry to learn that Roger voted for Vivian at the audition. The both of them get into a heated disagreement, and when she disparages his unsuccessful career, Roger slaps her. Roger is suspended for his misbehavior, but Juliet is informed that he is a competent instructor and is unlikely to be sacked. Principal Gordon, however, places her with a temporary tutor for the time being, but Juliet requests for Dr. Kask. Later, Juliet sees a stack of used tampons in her cubby, and she takes them and matches furiously to Vivian, knowing that she's the one who did it. But Vivian dismisses her, stating that they are now even. During practice, Dr. Kask informs Vivian that she is almost a match with Vivian, however she only lacks the motivation and fervor that her sister exhibits throughout her performances. He says that Juliet plays like the devil is at the door, and when she inquires about the late Moira, Dr. Kask responds that Moira plays like the devil is in the room. Juliet returns to her dorm room and examines Moira's journal, noting the unsettling illustration and unintelligible text. She holds the notebook in front of a mirror and notices that all of the writing is backwards as she abruptly recalls Alexa's statement that Moira was ambidextrous. She then reads the courses shown on the drawings. The invocation is the first road, then certainty, victory, culmination, purification, and finally the ripped sheet at the sixth path. Juliet is awakened by her phone in the middle of the night. Then she notices a yellow light. When she goes to inspect it, she discovers a deceased Moira grinning at her. But it's all a nightmare. Next, Max has invited her to a party at college. Max offers Juliet some drugs. She is reluctant to come with him because of the curfew and her previous argument with Vivian. When the effects of the drug starts to kick in, she goes to a quiet place to cool off, and she overhears Vivian on the phone, conversing with someone that suggests she is cheating on her boyfriend Max. Vivian tells the other person on the phone that their relationship is ended, and leaves the area without seeing Juliet. Max is searching for Vivian when he discovers Juliet. Nevertheless, the two become closer and discuss their interests. Juliet reveals that she has always wanted to play the piano, but Vivian was ahead of her. She also shares with Max how she saved Moira's theoretical notebook and how it gives her a sense of confidence, as though it were speaking to her. Then, Juliet tells Max that she wants to kiss him in a flirtatious manner. Sadly, Vivian overhears them talking, and the sisters begin shoving and fighting. Juliet is upset and leaves, but she is startled when she reaches the end of the cave and sees a bright golden sun outside. But before she could realize that she's on the brink of the cliff, Vivian passed through her and has fallen off. Juliet stops Max as she sees him go by, stopping him from falling over the edge. Max calls an ambulance for Vivian. Juliet wakes up on her desk the next morning, unable to recall how she got there. She's amazed at how many pieces she sketched without having any knowledge of. She then notices that Moira's notebook is on the victory page, and she notices how well the sketch resembles Vivian's look after she fell. She then turns back to Assurance page, and sees the drawing once again. Seeing the resemblance between Roger's and the devil's hands, she rushes to school, and Wilkins summons her to the principal's office. She sees Vivian waiting outside with a cast on her arm. Principal Gordon informs Juliet inside the office that Vivian has been suspended for violating curfew. They also need a replacement musician for the concerto because Vivian's arm is broken, so they give Juliet the job, which she gladly takes. When Juliet goes to speak with Vivian that evening, she finds her sobbing by the stairs. It seems possible that her injury will prevent her from playing at the same level as previously. Then, in an attempt to defend herself, Juliet claims that she's not the one responsible for her broken arm. But Vivian accuses Juliet of allowing her to fall. The sisters' relationship appears to be permanently ruined as a result of this. After Juliet gets back to her room, she phones Max to discuss the notebook and looks into Moira's past life. She informs him that, similar to Moira's experience, the images in the notebook are beginning to happen to her and assist her, stating that Moira's father set their home on fire while he was still inside, and Moira's mother went into a coma after falling off a ski lift. Max, however, tries to soothe Juliet by stating that Moira likely had a history of psychosis and that, because she had no one to confide in, she utilized art therapy as a coping mechanism. Max deduces that Moira murdered herself as a result of her inability to cope with her loss. However, following their chat, Juliet tells Max that Vivian has been cheating on him. This prompts Max to approach Vivian right away, and they engage in a public yelling session while Juliet observes from her window, grinning slightly. As Juliet practices for the concerto, the seat breaks, unintentionally hitting her head on the piano. She receives an ice pack from Dr. Kask, who also offers her his phone number and instructs her to call him if she needs anything. Rather, Juliet extends an invitation to their birthday to him. Juliet exits her practice room, lured once more to the chamber where Moira passed away. Then, out of the blue, Max surprises her by telling her that he and Vivian are no longer together. After they make love, Max leaves her in the room and instantly regrets it. Later that evening, the twins' parents argue with Dr. Kask over the twins' birthday dinner, claiming that their daughter's jobs are rather meaningless and that no one will be listening to classical music in the years to come. Dr. Kask, however, stares at Vivian after telling them that true music will endure because it would be maintained by those who deserve it. Vivian is furious, hurling the chocolate cake at him and splattering her drink on him, then leaves. Juliet's mother discovers her father is intoxicated, so Dr. Kask offers to drive Juliet back to the university. In an attempt to give Juliet more confidence for the concerto, Dr. Kask brings her into his house, where he begins to encourage her. However, believing that Dr. Kask is interested in her, Juliet misinterprets the situation and gives him a kiss. When Dr. Kask rejects Juliet right away out of concern for his job, she confronts him about his covert romance with Vivian and discovers that he is the one who keeps calling her sister, because she saw his number when he gave her. In addition, Juliet finds out that Dr. Kask has fallen in love with Vivian. There's a dispute between the two, and they begin to undermine one another as Juliet explains that she will succeed unlike them, and that he is now a failed musician like Roger. However, Dr. Kask notes that she has already lost her opportunity and that well-known musicians excelled at an early age. Hearing this, Juliet hurls his precious trophy into the fireplace. Dr. Kask yells for Juliet to go as he frantically tries to extinguish the fire. At home, Juliet discovers that she has already finished the first 5 steps from Moira's notebook, but the 6th step is still missing. Juliet sits down and reaches for a pen, eager to know what it is. She unintentionally moves her hand, drawing the 6th step. To show the finished drawing, we see an artwork of a lady stepping off a cliff with the phrase, "sacrifice." Juliet begins to scream, terrified, and hurriedly burns the notepad on her sink. On the day of the music presentation, she begins changing backstage. Wilkins informs her that Dr. Kask called in sick. When Vivian visits Juliet, she confronts her sister about her animosity against her and asks whether it stems from the fact that she was better. However, Juliet thinks she will outperform Vivian, especially now that her hand is broken, and Juilliard scouts would be seeing her on stage. But Vivian informs her that she would not get admitted since Juilliard is the best school and does not have to send out scouts. Juliet is also informed by Vivian that they are both failures, but her broken arm is her excuse, whereas Juliet she is only average. Moments later, as she's prepared to perform, Juliet unexpectedly has a panic attack and leaves the stage weeping. She sees a brilliant yellow light calling out to her. She then climbs to the roof and is about to leap off the building. After that, she is taken back to the music showcase, where she completes her performance and receives applause from the crowd, the exact moment she witnessed in her dream. Juliet really leaped to her death, and no one even saw her corpse, thus this turns out to be her last step to victory. If you enjoy this video, please hit the like button and turn on notifications so you don't miss more videos like this. Thanks for watching.